What up, everybody? Welcome to your 101st Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial is learn about the AsyncTask class. And basically what that's going to allow us to do, well actually first let's talk about our problem that we're having. For the most part, our activity works. We can load data, we can save data, and we can load data. But the problem we're having is sometimes, loading data might take some time. If it's a big file or something like that, if it has to read through a ton of bytes of data. And right now what we're doing is we're doing all of that stuff within the same thread as our user interface, like the thread that handles our button clicks or touch methods, everything else. So it's pretty busy. And then we add something like saving and loading data to that. It's like, hey man, I'm doing everything. Start your own thread if you want to do some extra crap. So that's what basically the async task is going to allow us to do. We're going to be able to load data on a separate thread, so it won't really affect our processing speed. It won't really affect our, it won't really stress out our user interface thread, because if that's too stressed, it'll slow our application. If it goes on pause for more than 5 seconds, it's going to crash our activity. So we're just going to create a new thread that is going to handle our loading data in this tutorial. And what we're going to do first is we're going to cut everything from what we did in the last tutorial within our load button. So it should look pretty bare, and make sure you cut it, copied it, because it's going to be pretty much the same code. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new class that extends the AsyncTask class, so we can load our data there. But how we call that method, or how we call that class to kind of do whatever we want it to do, is we're just going to say new load some. We're going to say new and then our class name. We haven't created it yet, so we're just going to say new load some stuff, which is going to be our class name, with 2 parentheses, and then we say dot execute. Whoa, can't spell. And then we're going to give it a file name, something like that. Now what we need to do is create this class called load some stuff and have it extend the async task. So we're going to go right above our last bracket within our our class here, our internal data. We're going to set up a new class. So we're going to say public class load some stuff, and then we're going to say extends async task. And then we're going to give one of these greater than signs, and we're going to say string, integer, and string. And I'll describe what that means here in a second. So now we have this load some stuff class, and it's given us an error because we have to implement a method because we're using the async task. So we're going to say add unimplemented methods, and it creates this method do in background. Now what we're going to do is just kind of paste everything from the previous tutorial within this do in background. So again, we just created this new execute method for the most part, and we pass in a string. And once this execute method gets called, it's going to go to our class name, which we call load some stuff, and it's going to do this method, do in background. So in the background, it's going to kind of load all our data that we want. So we're just going to hit Control V for paste, and what we're going to do is this method is looking to return something. So instead of saying, setting our text here, which we could still do, we're just going to say return collected. And again, collected was that string right here that we get, or that we set up, that reads kind of our data from our file InputStream, again, that we created in the last tutorial. So after all that happens, if everything works properly, it's going to close our file InputStream, and it's going to return the string called collected. So now let's talk about this setup here. As you can see, we extended the async task class, and now let's talk about these 3 parameters. The first parameter is saying, hey, what is being passed in? And since we're passing in file name, which is a string, we're going to set up this first reference as a string as well, or whatever you're passing in. The second reference is for kind of a progress or update bar. So we're going to work with integers. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to show you guys that or not. We might, but I'm not positive yet. And then the third one is what we're returning. And again, we're returning another string called collected. So that's what those parameters are again. What we're passing in, what our progress is, and what we're returning for the most part. And then again, this do in the background method is what is called when we execute. So it's just going to create a file input stream, load everything, and pretty much everything we did in the last tutorial. Now that's probably the end of this tutorial since we got our async task set up and we learned about this do in background method. I'm going to show you guys some more methods that we can use with this async task class as well. So I'll catch you guys then. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 102nd Android tutorial for the new Boston. We're going to learn more about the async task and what methods it can use and when they get called for the most part. So first, before we get too confused, let's kind of move these brackets down. You guys want to have two brackets here, and then we're going to set up some more methods again within this load some stuff class. Now let's just kind of go in order how it's going to read it and which methods are going to get called when we use that execute. Again, here's where most of the meat is for this class where we load the data and return something, but we also want to be able to receive it, whatever it's returning, and kind of maybe we want to set up some variables. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say protected protected void on pre-execute, and again we can refer to whatever is being passed in, like a string f, something like that. And within this method we can this is going to get called first for the most part, so we can set up some variables if we want. For the most part we don't need to for this class, but just to show you guys, maybe leave a comment. Example of setting up variables or setting up something, and we get that f or that string, and we can just set that equal to whatever, and there we go. This won't really do anything for the most part, so it doesn't really matter. And another method we can call is to get that progress. Again, we have an integer that we can refer to, and so if we have a progress method that kind of displays some kind of a loading bar or something like that, we want to access the progress method. So what we're going to say here is we're going to say again protected void on progress update, and it's going to take an integer, and we're going to call this integer array. I'm sorry. And we've worked with arrays before, it's like that, but when we call them in or pass them in, you just want to say dot dot dot, and that's basically the same thing as an array for the most part. We're going to set this integer array equal to like progress or something like that is the name. And then again we can, I don't know if I'm going to go through a progress bar or not. I might. If I do, it'll probably be the next tutorial. But then after that we're going to say also one last statement that gets called after everything's completed, after we call a return method, whether it be our string that actually loaded or this null. The last method is going to be called protected, or it's going to be protected void on post execute, and we're just going to say string as well, because again we're returning a string here. So we're going to say string result, which we're going to rename. Again, basically we're either going to get a return null, or if everything worked right, we're going to return that string that we loaded called collected. And once we call this return, it's going to execute this method called on post execute, and we're going to get whatever that return was. So since we're returning a string, we're going to work with that. We're going to call it result, and now we can set up our text view within here. Our text view was called data results, or data result was it, and we can just say dot results maybe dot set text, and then we can set it equal to our result, which again will be whatever we return. So let me format everything, and those are the 4 methods that you can use with this AsyncTask class. Again, pre-execute, do in background, which we're familiar with, and progress update, and also a post-execute where we actually change our text view. So let's run it, make sure everything works, guys, and we're probably good to go with this tutorial. Again, I'm not for sure if I want to do progress update. Maybe I will. You know, it's something a little bit new that you guys might like, so I'll probably do that in the next tutorial. So let's make sure everything works. So we're going to say internal data and just like a test text, something like that. We're going to save it, and if we hit the load button, yeah, there we go. We have our test text there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 103rd Android tutorial for the new Boston, and what we're going to do in this tutorial, we're going to learn about the progress bar. But before we start, I just want to point out a quick error that I made in the last tutorial, which I'm sorry for, but a good thing I decided to do the progress tutorial because I would have missed this completely. So we had this third method called onProgressUpdated, and it's actually supposed to just be onProgressUpdate. And I'll show you what that does a little bit more in this tutorial, since we're going to get a little bit more familiar with this async task. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up our ProgressDialog, is what it calls it. So within this class, what we're going to do is we're going to say ProgressDialog, something like dialog, like that. And we're going to set it up to equal anything. What we're going to do now is within this on pre-execute, we're just going to delete what we had and delete the string because we don't really care. It's still going to be called this way, or it's still going to be called here. Again, before it calls this string here, or this do in background type method. So we're just going to delete what it takes within its parameters, and we're going to set up our dialog. So what we're going to do is say dialog equals new progress dialog, and it takes a context, so we're going to refer to our main class up here called internal data. And so we're going to say internal data, which again is our main class name, and then we're going to say dot this. So we're getting the context of our main class, and that's where we're going to want our dialog to display. Now we can add some stuff to this dialog, so we're saying dot like set progress style, and there's some defaults that we can refer to from the progress dialog class. So we're just going to refer to like a horizontal style one. So we're going to say style horizontal. Finish that. Dialog set maximum. And we could like get like how much byte, or how much data we're working with, but for the most part we're just going to set up a dubious type of dialog. So we want the max to be 100 just for this example. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to say dialog.show. So we set it up and then we show it. Again, pretty simple. For the most part, you guys should be kind of familiar with creating something. Actually, I'm not for sure how much stuff we've created in Java, but basically this is just creating a dialog for us with the maximum of 100, and we display it. And again, this is only going to be created and displayed when we call this on pre-execute. So again, when our onClick method, we had that load button, it's going to call this first before it actually tries to load the data. So now what we want to do is we want to go into this do in background, and what we're going to say is we're going to create a for loop before it actually tries to load data. Again, we're just kind of making a dubious type of type of dialog here. So what we're going to say is for, and we're going to set up an int called I, and we're going to set it equal to be 0. Then we're going to put a semicolon. Then we're going to say as long as I is less than, let's say 20, oops, I is less than 20, and we're going to increment by 1. Now I'm not sure if we've done for loops yet or not. It's kind of a Java thing. All we're saying is while we're initially starting our variable to be 0, and while that variable is less than 20, loop through again, and then it's going to increment that number by 1. So it's going to loop through this 20 times for the most part. Now what we need to do is we need to kind of reference this on progress update here, and we do that by a command. And the command is called publish progress. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass in, oops, and then within parentheses we pass in what we want for the most part. So we're going to pass in 5. So now what we're going to do is it's going to loop through 20 times and send 5 each time to this on progress update. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our dialog again that we created. We're going to say increment progress by, and we're going to kind of access whatever we publish progress up here in our do in background. So since we're passing 5 in, it's going to update by 5 if we refer to that. And again, we created, or we're passing in an array, and you're like, what? We aren't. We're just passing in one number. How's that an integer array? Well, it still is classifying it as an array at the position 0. So what we're going to say is our integer array we called progress here, and we're just going to say progress, and since it is an array we have to have the boxes, and we're going to refer to position 0, which again is going to be that 5. So we're just going to update our dialog by 5 each time it gets called, each time this publish progress gets called. And then after all that's done, we need to still close our dialog box. So it's going to be going through this loop for, actually that's going to go really quick, so let's add a sleep within here. So again, this kind of review, thread.sleep, and we're going to sleep for, let's do 88 milliseconds for some reason. I don't know. We're just going to do that, and then we have to surround this with a try and catch. So now it's going to sleep for 88 milliseconds each time before it call updates or increments by 1, and then each time again it's going to pass 5 in. Down here we update our progress bar by 5, and then once it's complete, or once this for loop's done, we've reached 100 for the most part. What we're going to do now is we're going to refer to our dialog and just close it. So we're going to say a dialog dismiss, and that's just to get rid of it, because it's going to be caught up in this loop for however long 88 milliseconds times 20 is, and then after it's done doing that, we're going to dismiss our dialog. So let's run it, make sure everything works. I know we went through a lot of stuff in this tutorial, but again, if you guys think you follow along and you're getting problems, make sure this isn't updated like this. Like I said in the last tutorial, delete that D. It's on progress update. So that's kind of a key point. And then also, we just set up our dialog, and nothing too complicated there. So hopefully this works. And again, if you guys need the source code, if this is one of your first tutorials, you haven't been following in the series, just go to mybringback.com, go to the tutorial section, and under the Android section of that, there should be the new Boston, and there should be the whole package, the source code you can download, all that stuff. So let's just hit our load data, creates a progress bar, updates by 5 for each time it goes through that for loop. And then when it's done, or when when the for loop's done, it's going to dismiss the dialog, and then it's going to call our file input output stream. So again, we can just say test save load data, and then it loads. So I mean, that progress bar has nothing to do with the actual loading of data. is something completely different, dubious for the most part. But I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. We're going to learn about external storage. So have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 104th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is learn about external storage, because before we've done the shared preferences and the internal storage. But let's say you guys have an app or a game that saves some data, and when they install the update, basically if we save the data internally or shared preferences, that memory is going to get erased. So what we can do is create external storage, such as like on the SD card, where when they update the game or whatever, they can still refer back to that file that we're saving on the SD card. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a class called external data, and we're also going to create a class called external data, or I'm sorry, a layout called external data. And all this layout is going to have is 2 text views for now, and the references of those text views are going to be TV can write and TV can read. Because this tutorial we're just going to see if we can access the external storage and see if we can write to it and if we can read to it. So within our class we set up a private text view variable called can write and can read. And basically private just means that this text view is only accessible to this class, and that's all that means for the most part. Set up our references and set our set content view, and we're just going to set up our can write dot set text to initially be false, and our can read dot set text to false as well. So if we get a false, we know we can't write or read, or something's not working within this tutorial, because we're initially actually let's not do that. We're going to save that there, but we're going to move it later. So if we start our application, we see the text views, we know nothing's happening. But we're eventually going to move this so we can see if it's working or not. And how we're going to do that is we're going to set up a string variable. We can again do private if you want, string, and we're going to say the state, because we're going to return the state value of our external data, like if we can access the SD card, if we can read the stuff on the SD card, or if we can write the stuff on the SD card, or both. So how we're going to do that is by the environment. We're going to get some stuff from the environment class, and we're going to get the state of the external storage. So we're going to set up the state variable to within our onCreate method to environment dot get external state, and that's just going to return a string for us. And what we're going to do now is just kind of check if we can read and write, or check what the state is equal to. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if state, and we can't compare strings like this, is equal to whatever. That's not going to work. To compare strings, again, we just have to hit dot equals. And now if it equals this object within here, then we know what kind of state it is. And there's 3 types of states. One, again, we have to refer to the environment class, so environment, and then we're going to say dot media mounted. So if our state is equal to this media mounted, what that's going to mean is we can read and write. So we're just going to set up within here read and write, something like that. And now we're just going to change our text views. I'm just going to copy that here and turn these to true, because we can read and write. Because we don't want to try and write something if we can't do it. So we're basically going to use this type of checking method to see if we can read and write, and then if we can write some data. Let's say there's a different state that we access where we can read the stuff but we can't actually write it. So what we're going to do, we're going to say else. So if this statement's false, we're going to say, hey, is it this? Else if, and we're going to say state again dot equals, and then within parentheses environment dot media mounted read only. So that way we're going to be able to read the data, but we can't actually access it. So again, we're just going to leave a comment, read but can't write. There we go. And so on this one we're going to say, again, we're just going to copy and paste. Let's say we're going to say write is still going to be false, but read is going to be true. And then the last state, we're going to say else. So this last bracket is going to be our last resort. So it's going to say, hey, can we read and write? It's going to be like, yeah, true, true. If that's false, it's going to be like, hey, can we at least read it? And it's going to be like, yeah, you can read it. But if we can't, it's going to be like, all right, I got nothing for you. So this is our last little bracket here to set up some stuff. So we're just going to hit Control V and set both of our text to false. And now we're going to delete both these two set texts with above, because this way we can see if this whole thing isn't even working at all for the most part, because we'll still have those text views. So let's just run it and see what our emulator looks like when we run our application. And again, just quickly, what we did, still got it going from last tutorial, and what we did is we set up two text views, and basically we're getting, every time we access external data, we want to use this environment get external state, external storage state, and check if we can read and write. That's the main thing of this tutorial, is we're just getting the state and seeing if it's equal to media mounted. And then, you know, if we can't, we're going to see if we can at least read the data. And then if we just need to read data, you know, we want to make sure we can at least read it. And if we can't do either, we're going to kind of return a false value as well. So, and once we go down to our external data, you can see both of them are true, so we can read and write to our emulator. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 105th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do real quickly is set up a couple Boolean values called CanW and CanR. Can read and write. So we're going to set these Boolean values to be is just, you know what they should be. CanW equals CanR, can read, can write equals true within, you know, our state where we can read and write, and can W equals false here, but can R equals true, and lastly can W equals can R equals false. And what we're going to do in this tutorial, we aren't actually going to work with the data yet. We're going to do something called a spinner within XML. So go over to your external data and look for something called a spinner. I'm just going to drag and drop it within our class here. Now let's just check our references and make sure everything's the same. I'm just going to keep the default for the most part because it's probably the only time we're going to use spinner. So it's just going to be spinner1, and let's set that up within our external data class. So now let's set up some stuff within our class here. We're going to set up a spinner, and we're going to call it just spinner, something like that. Pretty clever, huh? Yeah, thought of that name for that variable for quite some time. And what we're also going to do is create a string array. And we're going to call this paths, something like that. We're going to set this equal to open bracket, quotations. We're going to say like music, because basically we're creating paths that we can save something to for this activity. So we're going to say path or music, pictures, and just download, something like that. So just quite a pretty small string array there, and just has three things, again position 0, 1, and 2. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our spinner within our onCreate method. So just go within the brackets of our onCreate, and we're just going to say spinner equals again spinner find view by ID r.id.spinner1. Now what we're going to add to the spinner is we're going to say spinner dot set, instead of onClick listener, we're going to say set adapter, and we're going to just leave it as adapter here. But we don't have a adapter yet, so we're going to create an adapter called adapter just so it will match this right here above where we actually access the adapter. So what we're going to do is how we're going to set up our array adapter is just type in ArrayAdapter, or I should say how we're going to set up our adapter for here. We're going to make it be an ArrayAdapter and just say adapter. And this should be kind of familiar with, you know, where you guys probably got super confused at the beginning of the series when we worked with array adapters. But now all we're going to do is we're going to set this ArrayAdapter type to be string, because we're working with this array paths up here, the string array up here. So it's ArrayAdapter type string called adapter, so it matches right here. And now what we're going to say is new adapter, new ArrayAdapter, and again type string, and within its parameters we're going to say this for the context of our class, or even just you can also say external data, which is our class name dot this, comma, and then we can refer to the basically what comes with the SDK for a simple spinner item. So we're just going to say android.r.layout.simple spinner item. Hit that. And the last thing we need to set up, so there's three things within the parameters: the context, kind of the type of spinner layout for the most part, which we're just going to use the default for the most part, and then we also need to set up our string array. So our string array was called paths. So that's kind of difficult to see, but yeah, just make sure you know the context, this ArrayAdapter, or the type is just from the Android SDK called spinner, simple spinner item, and the third one is our string array called paths right here. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial I'll show you guys how to access which spinner item has been touched, and I'll catch you guys then. Have a good one. What's up, gangsters? Welcome to your 106th Android tutorial for the new boss. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're actually going to get some information from our spinner, such as which item has been selected. So what we're going to do is do spinner dot set on item, set on item selected listener, and we're going to set this equal to this, just kind of like when we set up a button, kind of as always, and then we're just going to implement the select, or the item selected listener. And again, we just hover over class, add unimplemented methods, and we have two new methods. Basically, when item's been selected and on nothing selected. Well, we aren't going to really worry about the nothing one because we aren't really going to do anything for the most part. So what we're going to do is we're going to go within this item selected method here, and what we're going to do is we're going to set up an int such as position, something like that. We're going to refer to our spinner here. We're just going to say get selected item position, and that's going to turn it into an int, and that's going to give us the position of our adapter that has been chosen, of our array adapter. So we have three positions, position 0, 1, and 2, and so we're going to just set up a switching case for that. So we refer to our position, and we're just going to say case, and I spelled position wrong, case 0, which will be the first thing in our list, which will be music, and we're going to say case 1, break, and lastly case 2, and break. Now what we're going to have our item selector do is basically tell us which directory we want to save in. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll all the way up to the top and create a file, and we're going to call this path. I'm going to initially set it equal to null, so it's nothing. Now what we're going to do is set up our directory path within our, when an item has been selected. And how we do that is we just say path equals environment, because we're going to refer to the environment and see if we can get the standard directories for the most part, such as music directory, people save their pictures, all that good stuff. So we're going to say environment get external storage public directory, because when we save, basically we're just going to save a picture to one of these directories. We want it to be public so they can access it without even using our application, because again we're saving it externally and publicly. And then all we're going to say within here, we're going to refer to our environment as well. We're going to say dot directory, what was the first one? I believe is music. So we're going to say dot directory music, and then just finish our statement there. So let's make sure, we have music, pictures, and then download. So we're just going to copy this and paste it, and paste it within our case 2, and just change the directory to directory downloads for the third one, and directory pictures for this one. So there we go. Basically that's it for this tutorial. I know these paths don't really mean much to you yet, but again, I'll talk about them more when we actually save our stuff to the phone. But that's it for this tutorial, guys. Again, all we learned about is the on item selected listener, and how to access our spinner to get the current position of our array that has been selected, and we set up a path, which again is a file path. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 107th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to learn about in this tutorial is visibility, for the most part, for XML layout, such as a button. Let's say for this example we're going to have a button where the user can save the data, but first we want to make sure they have actual file name. So we don't want them to allow us to save anything until they create the file name. So that's the kind of concept we're going to go through in this tutorial. It's going to be pretty simple for the most part, since everything's pretty basic. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a let's go with a text view. Just trying to gather my thoughts here, sorry. And hey, edit text, and then let's say a button. 2 buttons. Let's do 2 buttons. So 1 button, 2 buttons. Now let's just change some stuff around. First edit text that we just have, we're going to say save as, something like that. And for edit text, we're going to change this to et save as, and for button we're going to say confirm, and for our first button anyways, and our second button we're going to say save for the text. And then let's change our references for those buttons to confirm, save as, something like that. Just trying to make sure we don't have the same references that we've used before. And also save file. There we go. So let's check this out. Everything's looking pretty good. And what's going to happen is when they click this confirm button, then this save button will appear. So first we need to kind of disable the save button actually being visible to start with. So it's pretty simple. Just going to format right there for you guys. And Android, all you do is Android and then visibility. And let's see what options we have. I believe it's visible and invisible. So we're just going to hit equals invisible. Gone would be like it's destroyed. So if you guys just want this button to be clicked once and then destroy it, you want to use the gone, which wouldn't really make too much sense in the XML layout. It's more kind of the same reference as we do in Java. So let's check that out. Our save button isn't there. So now let's go over to our external data Java file and just kind of set up some of those references. So we had, let's make everything accessible here for a whole class. Our edit text, and we're going to have this save file, two buttons, confirm and save. Just import both those, and let's set up our references now. Our confirm equals button. See, you know, I always debate if I should do this before the tutorials, or if you guys actually like me setting this up so you don't have to pause the video and catch up. So, and I can't really get any feedback from you because, you know, it's not going to be, going to be published until I'm done with the whole series. So let's do button, and then what was it? And oh yeah, and since we don't have our references available yet, we gotta go over to our XML file, save it. I always forget that. So now button, confirm, save as. For confirm button and for save button, we're gonna have this again equal just button find view by ID, and it is button save file. Now let's add our on-click listeners. To both our save and our confirm. Implement. See, at one point I bet you guys thought the button thing was kind of difficult, but now you're pros. You're showing everybody. So once we get our on-click listener set up, let's go down here and set up a simple switching case that we're also familiar with. Get ID. Alright, and now we're ready to go for a tutorial with the Java side of the visibility thing. So what we're going to do is, again, our save button is invisible to start with. So when they do the click, which goes through this on-click method, in this case confirm click, all we're going to do is we're going to change the visibility of our button in this tutorial anyways. So what we're going to do is we're going to say our save button dot set visibility, and what we want to set this equal to is from the view class. So we're going to say view dot, and we have all these options, such as the gone one I was telling you guys about earlier. There's invisible if we want to make it invisible, and there's visible. So we're going to click visible, and we're good to go. Let's just check this out, make sure everything worked. I know it's a pretty simple tutorial, but we got some stuff set up for the future. Always think about the future, guys. Alright, so let's check. I clipped the video because my emulator wasn't started. External data, no save button. And when we hit confirm, bam, our save button's available. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial where we'll do some more sweet stuff. And have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 108th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to create another file. We have one file called path, but we're going to create another one. And this will be actually from our edit text, so more specific way that they're going to save it. So we're just going to create another file, and we're going to call this one file name, something like that, or actual file, something like that. And we're just going to say null to begin with. And then you know, what was our edit text called? Save file. So now we're just gonna, within our actual save button, we're going to set this file up equal to basically our edit text. So we're going to create a string to kind of convert our edit text into a string. So we're going to say string f, I don't know, and We're going to get our edit text, which I just looked at and forgot already, called save file dot get text dot toString. Again, kind of just quick review. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have that file basically equal our path that we set up, and then on top of that, because the path is kind of the folder it's going to be, within that folder we're going to reference basically our edit text as the specific file itself. So a few tutorials ago we set up a few paths, which you can kind of think about as the different folders. So like the music folder, the picture folder, and the downloads folder. So we need our file to kind of reference which folder it is and then which specific path it is. So what we're going to do here is basically say our file and say equal to new file, and we're familiar with, you know, just a string reference of some sort, something like that, but we want to also refer to our path. So there's another file constructor that we can use that takes two parameters. One for basically, you can think of the path or the folder, however you guys want to think about it, and then for the second parameter, the actual specific, you know, whatever .jpeg or something like that, PNG. So since we're using our, you know, our F here for actual edit text, we're just going to say F here. So that's going to create a file for us in, again, our path location with the specific file name from our edit text. Pretty simple for the most part. And now what we want to do is, again, we're going to kind of check to make sure we can read and write everything. And we've done that up here a few tutorials ago with the state. We get the state and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to say create a new method called check state, something like that, and it's going to say, hey, I don't know what that is, create method, and then we're just going to copy all this stuff here, or cut it I should say, and then paste it within that check state method that we just created, which is right here. So Control V, that's going to check everything, update both our edit text or our text views and also our Boolean values. So now what we can do within our save file again is make sure everything's can read and write. So whoops, we could either do that or we can just use our method that we just created. So we're just going to say check state, and that's going to update everything for us. And then we're just going to say if, you know, we can W, which is can read, equals can write, or I'm sorry, can write can equals can read equals true, we can read and write, right? And within here is where we're actually going to kind of do everything. So before we use file input streams and file output streams, but this time, since we actually have a file set up, we're just going to use input stream and output stream. So what we're going to do is create an input stream, input stream called is equals, and we're just going to get a picture. We're going to save a picture no matter what file path we're using, whether it be the music, whatever. We're going to save a picture to that file. So if you guys download the application and use this this activity, you might want to check your folders and see if there's actually a picture in there. So we're going to do get resources, which is going to refer to our resource folder, and then we're going to say open raw resources. I think we've done this before, and then just start whatever we want to save. So r.drawable dot let's say green ball. So that's our input stream, what we're going to save. Now we also need to create an output stream, and we're going to call this OS, and we're just going to say new file output stream, and we're going to refer to our file that we set up right here. So we're going to say file. Then we just got to import both our file output stream and our file and our output stream. And again, we're going to have to surround this with a try and catch. So let's open up our try brackets a little bit more and just throw our input stream in there as well. What we need to do again is set up a byte array that's going to kind of read all of our data for us. So we're just going to, set up a byte array, call it data, and this is going to be equal to new byte array. And within the parameter, we're going to give it our input stream, and we just say dot available again. So nothing too new there. And it says we just need to add a catch clause to our surrounding try, so we're just going to click that, adds the input-output exception. And then what we need to do is we need to do our input stream dot read. With the parameters, we're going to give it our byte array. Looks kind of familiar to the last tutorial. We just read, except this time we are in a while loop, so yeah, that's fine. And we're also going to write it to our output stream, so we're going to say write, and we're going to write data, and then we just need to close both our input and our output stream. So just close and output stream close. And we're pretty much done. I mean, this is going to save a picture to one of our path files and to the specific location of our edit text. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 109th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is basically the polishing up of our little application. Might be one more for this external data, then we'll be done. But what I've realized is we haven't set up our edit text, that reference, so let's do that real quick. Otherwise our program's going to crash. So we're going to say save file, standard stuff here. So hopefully we won't get any errors. And what was that called? et save as, and there we go. We have that set up. Now the other thing we need to do is we have to add a permission to our manifest so we can write to the external data, or write externally. So we're just going to say add uses permission. Over here in the name, we're just going to click down, scroll to the bottom, and there's the choice write external storage. Hit save, and now we can write to the external storage. And another thing we can do is that we want to do is make sure that our actual path exists, because we're going to be basically saving this to the the SD card, and then we're going to get our path, which is either going to be kind of a directory for downloads, pictures, music. If that path doesn't exist, we want to create it so we can actually save some stuff within that folder. So how we do that is we just say path dot mkdirs, and that'll basically create a directory path for us if it doesn't exist. If it already does exist, it's not going to do anything. So it's a pretty simple way to create a folder wherever we want our path to lead. And let's also add a toast within our try here. So what we're going to do, we've done toast before, but just to make our application a little bit better, we're going to say toast dot make text context, our class name, which is called external data dot this text file has been saved, and duration toast dot long length, or length long, I don't know, dyslexia or something. I'm dyslexic. And then we're just gonna hit t dot show. So now we'll display a toast after we opened and closed our input and output streams. Now let's check it for the most part, and then I'm gonna show you guys our application, but apologize if the quality is poor. You guys might not be able to see the actual phone or what I'm doing, but I'll try and talk through everything that I'm doing so you'll understand it. I'll catch you guys then. Peace. Alright, so just ran the application on my phone here, and first thing I want to show you guys is when we go to external data right here, both of our our triggers are set to false. We can't read or write, and that's because we have the SD or this cable plugged in, USB. So we're just gonna unplug that bad boy and hit back, let it kind of readjust, be like, yeah, they unplugged that thing, we're good, we're good. Hit external data, we got true and true. Now let's try and save to our music folder. We're gonna say Travis music test, something like that. I did a previous video, so a few of these directories already exist, and you just want to make sure your spinner item is, you want to select even the music, because I don't think we set up our path at the beginning, so it's only going to be setting up the path once we hit one of our spinner items. Now we're going to hit confirm and save. We got the toast down there that says file has been saved, and let's also try and save to our pictures. Hit save. Yeah, that's working as well, and our downloads. So we're going to hit save for downloads as well, all with the file name Travis Music Test. You can change that as well, but just to save some time here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our files. Too many applications here, too many games I play, and in our files here, we're in the SD card. I don't know if you guys saw that. You gotta hit the SD card because that's where we're saving to again. Okay, so we're gonna scroll, and I just clipped the video because I just realized something. We're gonna scroll down, and it is right there. You can see it, but it's not gonna open it because we didn't add an extension, so it doesn't really know what type it is. So in order for this activity to work, you guys want to actually add the extension, such as PNG test2, and it'll open up our actual thing. But if we just leave it as is, it'll say unable to open this type. So that's a good thing to note. We could probably add to our file that we created just plus PNG after that, if you guys want. And then let's check our other folders real quick. Our music folder got Travis Music Test right there. Again, we need to add the extension, and it's in our pictures directory as well. So just open it up, test it. Yeah, Travis Music Test as well. So there we go, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 110th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And this will be the last tutorial for our external data class. And what I was talking about quickly in the last tutorial is we had to save it as a PNG. So, another way we can proof test is we can go up to our file where we set up here and just say plus, and then in quotations .png, since that image we were saving was a PNG file. That way they won't have to type PNG. But also, if they do type PNG, it probably will give an error because it'll be .png. So that's just one quick way we can, fix that error. And then also, what we can do, what we want to do in the main, what this tutorial is mainly about, is letting our media scanner update, so the user can access those files, because sometimes it doesn't update automatically, or it takes a little while before those files are accessible to the user. So if we just do an update through the media scanner, that way we know for sure that that file is available to the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a media scanner connection, or refer to that class, and we're going to hit .scan file. As you can see, it takes 4 paths, or 4 parameters. So for the context, what we're going to do, we're going to say external data .this. Again, the external data is our class name if you guys are just seeing this tutorial and haven't been following along. For our paths, what we're going to do, we're going to create a new string. Whoops. Whoa, what's going on? Alright, we're going to create a new string array, and we're going to basically put one thing within here. We're going to refer to our file name, and then we're just going to say toString. That's going to convert our file into a string, end off a bracket, and we're good for that second parameter. for the fourth parameter, and I'm just hitting enter after the commas. It's not really going to affect how the computer reads it. It's just for simplicity's sake for you guys. The third one we're just going to set null, and the fourth one's going to be quite long. What this one is going to be is basically we're going to set up an on-scan completed listener, and you know, kind of do something after a scan has been complete. So what we're going to say is new media scanner connection dot on scan completed listener. So click that and it sets it up for us. Let's finish off our statement here with the semicolon. Again, this is just the fourth parameter. We can do something within here, whatever you guys want. Again, we can set up a toast dot make text external data dot this text scan complete, and duration toast is dot set length to short. And there we go. So now this scanner will kind of update our file name. So here are 4 parameters. We got the context, which is this of our class. The second one, which is our path, which we convert into a string array, or a file, I should say, into a string array. And the third one, don't worry about it. It's just going to be set to null. Last one, we're going to say on complete or scan completed, just if we want to, you know, display a toast. Whoops. Got to put T display, something like that, or show. Sorry. And there we go. So that's it for this tutorial. Maybe leave a comment here for future reference. Update media, update files for the user to use, something like that. So alright guys, next tutorials we're gonna get into something else. Don't know what yet. Maybe SQLite or something like that. So I'll catch you guys then. Have a good one. Peace.